Hey Crafty fam, it's Alex Vanover. Welcome back to my craft room. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to use alcohol ink to make awesome wood grain tumblers. These are great for beginners, so if you're not quite comfortable with making tumblers with glitter and epoxy, this is a great way to get started using epoxy and doing something that is so easy you're not even going to believe it. So let's get started. So let's talk about what I'm already starting with. So this is an already prepped tumbler. I followed the full prep process that I talk about in my how to prep a tumbler video. So I will link that up right there in the corner of my video so that you can check out how to prep a tumbler if you don't already know how. So I'm going to be holding it today on a piece of PVC pipe that just comes off my turner. And then this is just a dollar store football that I hollowed out the end of and I stick on the end of my PVC pipe. This is really helpful because it helps hold the tumbler on and holds it nice and tight so that it doesn't wiggle around while I'm trying to work on my tumblers. So I like to stick my arm in there like that, and that just helps me, turn it easily without the tumbler like flopping around all over the place. And then for our wood grain tumbler, we're going to be using alcohol ink. So this is Tim Holtz alcohol ink in Teakwood. That's my favorite color for wood grains, but keep in mind that you don't actually have to do wood grains made out of wood colors. You can use really fun colors of alcohol ink if you want to, and you can make it really, really unique and different, but I just want to show you kind of a traditional one in this tutorial. And then I'm also using a paintbrush with kind of a rounded head. I like these because they kind of create straight lines at the end. But you do want to be cautious when you're choosing a paintbrush for your wood grain that you're not going to be losing a bunch of bristles. Some of the cheaper paintbrushes definitely lose a lot in as you're using them. So just make sure that you're cautious about that. I'm going to be wearing gloves because alcohol ink can get really messy, and I have baby wipes on standby. I have rubbing alcohol in a spray bottle ready to go in case I make any mistakes or want to start over, because remember that alcohol ink is totally activated by alcohol. So if you're in the middle of doing your tumbler and you decide that you really don't like it and you want to start over, you can always do that. So just keep that in mind before you get started, kind of have those things nearby. And you guys, this is really super simple. I think you're going to be really, really shocked with how easy it is. So I'm just going to shake my alcohol ink to get started because I always think that's a good idea. Oh, and the surface underneath me is a Cricut mat that I don't mind getting messed up if I get alcohol ink on it. It already has paint all the way around the edges, so that is fine with me. Keep in mind, like I said, that alcohol ink is kind of messy, so you want to make sure you have a surface underneath you. That's not a big deal if you get some ink on it. So I'm just going to begin by starting a line all the way down my tumbler, and then taking a paintbrush and following it up to create my first wood streak. And I'm literally going to follow this process on the entire tumbler. It's really that easy. You're just going to put your line next to your last stripe and paint it again. One thing I really love about making wood grain tumblers is that they can all be so unique and different. It is totally normal in natural wood to have lots of flaws and have them all look a little bit different and unique. So multiple tones and imperfections in the wood just make it more unique and special, and they're not a bad thing. So that's one reason why I love making wood grain tumblers. They're a super easy way to start out with tumblers. If you're not super comfortable with glitter and epoxy yet, this is a great way to get started. So you'll notice that my alcohol ink is drying really fast. So I have no problem going all the way around the tumbler and setting it down on my mat, because by the time I roll my tumbler around, the ink is already really dry. The only thing is you do need to work somewhat quickly between putting down the line of ink and picking up your brush. You can't take forever because the ink starts to dry and sometimes starts to run really, really quickly. So that's probably the only tricky thing about wood grain tumblers, but the rest of it is like seriously really simple. So like, look how realistic that is. Isn't that crazy? It looks just like wood and it's literally so simple. So in order to do the bottom and shorten my tumbler a little bit, I'm gonna take it off the football PVC pipe contraction. And I'm just gonna put it down on my mat so that you guys can see what I'm doing. So I'm just gonna put a stripe of alcohol ink just like I was doing before, and I'm just gonna paint over it like this. See how far I get, and then when I need to add more, I will. This is a much smaller area, so you can get a little more out of your stripes than you can on the main tumbler. Perfect. All right, so that is pretty much all there is to wood grain tumblers, guys. It really is that simple and that easy. I really enjoy making these because they're really fun. And like I said, if you're a beginner and you want to get used to making tumblers before doing much with glitter and epoxy, wood grain tumblers are a great way to get acquainted with the whole process without it being so complicated. So in the next step, I'm going to show you that you do need to seal your alcohol ink with acrylic sealer before you add epoxy to it, because if you don't do that, the epoxy can reactivate the alcohol ink and cause it to run and it won't look quite as natural. So you want to seal it with clear acrylic sealer spray in the next step, which I will show you, and then you are free to epoxy it. So I am using clear acrylic spray to seal my alcohol ink tumbler. You can buy it anywhere that spray paint is sold. So I just pick one spot on the tumbler and I spray all the way around until I get back to that spot, and then I spray the bottom. I did a total of 2 coats before I epoxied my tumbler. So I had, oh, and then I'm getting just something out of my alcohol ink there. But I did 1 full coat and let it dry for a few minutes, and then did a second coat over top of that, and then I let it dry prior to my epoxy. Of course, I'm spray painting outside. I had to use a box in my garage with the garage door open because it was a cold and windy day, but make sure you have good ventilation before you spray paint, and then you're ready to epoxy. If you decide to make any wood grain tumblers, make sure that you post them on social media and tag me, because I would love to see your work. So I'll put all my social media handles right here on the screen so that you can check me out on all the platforms that I'm on. And if you have any other questions about making wood grain tumblers, please feel free to drop those in the comments for me, because you know that I'd be happy to answer them. If you haven't already, please make sure that you click right here to subscribe to DIY Alex and scroll down just a little bit to find the bell notification, and then select all notifications from the drop down so that you never miss when I upload a new video. I hope we can craft again soon.